Hello and welcome, everyone. So glad to have all of you here and really excited about the conversation we're going to have today to share with you the assessment dashboard that we have and provide to graduates. The organization that services that gave us the content for today's presentation, and then we just had a chance to tweak it and make it specific to our coaches. So we're really excited about where we're going with it. Now, several of you did submit questions ahead of time. I hope we're doing a good job of addressing those as we go through. Do feel free to ask additional questions. You can do that in one of two ways. One is if you want to come on live and ask it live, just raise your hand and I can unmute you individually so you can ask your question. And then the other way is, of course, typing into the question panel, and I will monitor that as we go. So, marketing your coaching and assessments. Let's dive in. First off, a few things that are noteworthy about today's conversation. One is that everything that we're talking about today is applicable and it's doable. And it is doable whether you are one person working by yourself or in a large organization. The insights that you're going to gain from today, best practices, specific sales tips, are awesome. Really good input from the assessment dashboard company. And everything that we're going to cover is both affordable and powerful. So that's really good news for all of us. Our specific agenda for the conversation, we're going to talk about the 5 P's of marketing for coaches. Then we're going to talk about identify clients by recognizing what makes you an expert. We're going to move into the 3 basics of your marketing infrastructure. We'll talk about negotiating value instead of price. And learning more equals earning more. So diving right in, our very first P, it's product. So what are we talking about here? First off, your product is the solutions that you offer, the ideas that you bring to the table, the insights that come out of your processes. So when you think about the assessment, that's a solution for the awareness, the understanding, some ideas about, hey, this is where it's at. And then, of course, the coaching that follows the assessment. That's where clients discover their solutions. That's where they're creating new ideas and gaining new insights. What's important to know is that more than the training, the assessments, or the coaching, it's really about the whole. So the idea of the solutions, the ideas, and the insights, that's what you're selling. The product is a whole package. Instead of saying, oh, it's just about the training or just about the assessments or just about the coaching or even that combination. It's much bigger than that. The solutions, ideas, and insights are a bigger concept. Assessments are simply tools of the trade. So very hot in the coaching world. There are a lot of coaches using assessments, a lot of companies that want you using assessments. So definitely a tool that's in demand that people want. Each assessment is a completely different tool. And the idea is it's there to make what you do both easier, and because all of the assessments are validated tools, they're scientifically sound. So getting that insight and going through that really adds tremendous value. The product is going to be different for each client. So one of the things we talk about in your coach training programs is that instead of just saying, oh, I'm going to give every client this assessment. No. If you give a client an assessment, it's because that assessment is going to provide value to that client. It's got benefit for them. So it's about determining what is going to help the client as far as the insight and the information. And then choosing the assessment based on where the client's at and what's going to best serve them. So sometimes you give an assessment at the beginning of a coaching engagement. Sometimes it's further into the coaching engagement. I have one client that I've been working with for 2 years now, and we just did their very first assessment. And it was really helpful to them at this point in time. So assessments are a tool when it is appropriate for your client. You want to really dig in to what's going to serve them. So having the conversation with them. What are they gaining? What do they want out of it? If they are considering an assessment, what's the reason for it? And what are they looking for? Asking those coaching questions is going to add value to what you're offering. The second P of marketing is your price point. Now, in terms of the price point, instead of starting with the price, start with the solution. And remember, the solution is much bigger than the individual coaching, the individual training, the individual assessment process. It's the whole package. So focus on the solution first and do it as a package. So instead of itemizing, do it as a package, because here's what happens. When you start itemizing what you're offering, the client looks at that and says, oh, I can delete this, I can delete that, and I can get my price down. If you focus on the solution as a whole, and here's the package that covers or addresses that solution, instead of itemizing individual components, it's the package as a whole. One example is when you give one of the assessments from the dashboard you have after graduating, instead of selling that individual assessment, you're selling that assessment and the coaching. Forget the itemizing of the different components. Next, with your client, co-create a step-by-step outline, a flow chart. And what happens is when you do that with them in defining the solution, they're involved in what the solution is. And of course, as you know, just like in coaching, when they're involved in what that solution is, then they have that ownership and that buy-in to what the solution is. And co-creating an outline or a flow chart with your client serves everyone, because you're really addressing specifically what they want and what they're looking for. The client is going to own it because they're part of creating that solution. They're part of creating that flow chart. And of course, then they're also in agreement with it. That makes it so much easier as you move forward. It also makes it super clear for the client in terms of what to expect. Here's what's happening. Here's how it's going to work. And when you create that flow chart with them, they understand it, they get it, and they know where they're going. At that point, it truly sets you up for negotiating value, because ultimately it is all about the value. And I got a comment that the background noise is really loud. If I could get a few other people, tell me if you're getting background noise, because I'm not hearing it. So I want to know if it's just one person or if it's all of us. So there is other background noise. All right, let me see if I can adjust a few things here. And tell me if that gets better. Thank you for giving me that input, by the way. I'm glad to hear that. So I'm hoping it's gotten better on there. Oh, goodness. So I'm getting lots of not yet. What I'm going to do, everyone, is I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'm just going to change headsets, and I'm going to see if that makes a difference. So give me just a moment. Okay. So please tell me, is this better, everyone? And I'm getting oh, not really. Goodness. So I've tried a couple of different headsets. I'm going to go with one more option if that's not working, and we'll see if that helps. Please tell me if the sound is better now. Is this helping everyone? So I'm looking for input on whether or not this helped the sound. So you're saying, oh, it's about the same. I have gone through 3 headsets, and my one other option, everyone, is to be able to dial in. So I'm going to, again, apologize, and I will take just a moment to dial in. So give me just a second. Okay, everyone, I have just called in. Please tell me if that works better in terms of the sound. I'm hoping to get more feedback on this one. Okay, I got some smiles and some yeses, so it looks like we are working. Thank you, all of you, for letting me know that, because without your input, I literally have no idea. In the meantime, I've got a hand up. I'm wondering if that means you have a question. So Chantel, I am going to unmute you so that you can come on live and ask your question. So just a moment. Hi, Chantel. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine. I just want to know, I can't read the reaction of the other participant. Is it normal?
Yes, that is normal.
Okay.
In this, I see the questions, and I'm the only one that sees them. That's how this technology is set up, okay?
Okay, good. So I'm fine. I can hear you very well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to dive on back in and continue. So we've talked about our second P, the price P, and it's truly about working with the client and co-creating the solution. And then when you're selling your package to them, it's negotiating the value of it. So shifting now into our third P, the package itself. So first off, the solutions are your product and the packaging is you. So what does that mean? Patricia Fripp said, accentuate your appearance to enhance your brand identity. Jeffrey Gitomer says, have something signature. So what is it in terms of how you brand yourself and your offering that really makes you stand out, that makes you different and unique? So many of you have heard the term unique selling proposition. What is your unique selling proposition, and what do you offer that gives the client a reason to say, okay, this is the person I want to hire? Another thought for you is white label everything. So for example, on the assessment dashboard that you all have, you can white label. And what that means is that when the assessment goes out to somebody, it literally has your logo, it has your name, email, website, phone number, whatever you put on it, right there on the assessment. So when the report goes out, it has your information on it. And this is so incredibly important because it really makes you stand out. It's another touch point with your client. And so very, very important. Got a question in. I think this was going back to the last slide, an example of the flow chart. So Jennifer, one of the easiest ways in terms of creating a flow chart with a client is actually using PowerPoint and then using one of their smart graphics, because they have so many options on flow charts and you can set it up that way. As you start playing with that, you'll start doing more. Chances are you've seen in some of the different things you participated in, we do an example
We have a model we call the Staircase to Success coaching model that describes the relationship. And then we have a flow chart that describes the process itself. And so it literally diagrams. The idea is to have something visual with a few keywords on it to make it super easy to understand what the process is. So I hope that answered your question, Jennifer. Let's keep going with our packaging. So white labeling everything. That means every time you put something out, a product out, content out, whatever it is, that it has your name on it, your brand on it, your logo on it, because it takes multiple times for people to recognize you. The product design itself really does matter. Your color scheme, the sophistication, is it current? I know that for us, it's been this huge challenge where we went through and we did a redesign on the website, and then we got feedback on it, and we learned, oh my goodness, do even more on the website to really bring it up to date and modernize it, that kind of thing. And it's so important because the look makes a difference. And we notice a difference in activity simply by taking the time to do those additional upgrades. So considering that, and it matters to your consumer. Your packaging is communicating who you are, the quality of who you are, the quality of the product or the service that you offer. And so it speaks volumes to them. Communicate your value and your quality in your packaging, how you brand yourself. Okay. Marketing P number 4, the promotion of what you're doing. So we're going to talk a couple of different options. First off, and I think this is a fascinating statistic. I was really surprised when I saw it from them. And that is that successful businesses have 50% of their resources, both human and financial, invested in their marketing and their advertising. That's an astounding number. Wow, 50%. Now, I know we invest tremendously in that, and if I sit back and I think about the amount of time that goes into it, I can see it. I can absolutely see it. It makes sense. So here are some paid examples for investing in your marketing. One is what we call push marketing. That's where you're doing display advertising. So examples for us, we put an ad on the ICF website. That's push marketing. If you have print ads or display ads online, that's called push marketing. Now, pull marketing is your search engine optimization. And the idea of that is that you're pulling people into your website. They're out looking for what you offer, and they find you because your website is search engine optimized. Now, search engine optimization, oh my goodness, that's a whole week-long program in and of itself. First off, all the algorithms change constantly. There are some basic things you can do, and if you invest in search engine optimization, it can get super expensive and may or may not make a difference. So some of the basics of the search engine optimization start with when you create your website and set up your information, that you have keywords, that you name your pages appropriately, that the content on the page is specific to what the page name and keywords are, so that if somebody does look for you and find you, they get to the right page, they find exactly what they're looking for right away. Search engine optimization includes having links out to other people and when other people have links back to you. Now, some of those links back to you, you can create easily. You can do it on your social media profiles. You can do it when you guest blog or guest present. So there are ways you can get links to your website out there in other places. If you do offer events or other programs, putting those on calendars is another way to get links. So the more links back and forth from you into others, the easier it is for people to find you. Having the right keywords that match with your content is another big way to do it. So those are just some of the basics. If you have more questions on that, let me know. And again, there's so much more involved in search engine optimization. Now, these are paid examples. And by the way, I'm going to say some of the search engine optimization you can do yourself. So yes, some of it is paid, some of it you can do yourself. Now, there are free and low cost examples too. That's the good news, right? We want to know that. So the first off is strategic alliances. I think one of my favorite examples that I've shared with people is I had a coach that was in the wellness field. And what they did is went to insurance providers who had people come in to buy insurance that couldn't qualify because they had high blood pressure or they were overweight or something like that. And they literally collaborated with this person to say, okay, you send them to me. I'll work with them on the wellness side. When they get healthy and fit enough to qualify, they'll come back to you to buy their insurance. And so they created a strategic alliance in terms of clients, people that were going to be served by both of them. There are opportunities for that. I know some of you, just looking at the names on the call, several of you actually do career coaching, and you do alliances with different universities or even high schools. I know a couple of you are working with high schools as well. There are so many ways that you can partner with other businesses and individuals. Another free example is your social media. And it's so funny. Sometimes I have people say to me that they absolutely dread doing the social media thing. And you're going to see in a minute, it's really not a choice. If you're in business and you want to get yourself out there and you want to get known, it's part of doing that. The good news is that it is free, which means you can get seen and get found simply by being active on some of the different social media sites. Now, we do other programs on that. Here's the core tip. Schedule an amount of time to create your profile or update it wherever you're at. And from then on, it's 5 to 10 minutes a day. And schedule your time and manage it because it's too easy to get lost on social media. So literally, this is how much time I'm going to put into each of these and do it and move on. That's a great way to use it. Having a blog or guest blogging is another great way. So when you have a blog that's tied to your website, it actually helps your search engine optimization because there's fresh content all the time and consistently, and that helps your search engine optimization. When you guest blog on other websites, so for example, if you write a blog post and send it to us and we put it on our website, what does that mean for you? That means you get a link back to you. So you're creating that SEO, search engine optimization, plus you're starting to put yourself out there as an expert and being perceived as that expert. Newsletters and emails are additional options. Now, sometimes people think only in terms of having their own newsletter. That's a great tool. Having a newsletter for the people you serve where you're giving them content that you know they care about is incredibly helpful. It's also a great idea to think about writing for newsletters that other people send out, because when you write in other people's newsletters, you expand the reach of where you're getting to and where you're going to. And then, of course, an email system where you're consistently staying in touch with people is very, very important. Perhaps some of you have seen the research from the International Coach Federation. They say that top 2 ways for new clients are referrals and speaking. So this is going to speak to the idea of the networking, getting out there and talking to people, because whether or not the person you meet is looking for a coach, it may be they know someone who's looking for a coach. And when they know what you offer, that's fabulous. Ultimately, content marketing is king. When you put out content in blogs, in articles, getting published, speaking, presenting on your website, on your social media, that's huge. That's how you're promoting yourself. Okay, moving on now to marketing P number 5. Make it personal. So here's what it is. Play in your strengths. And all of you have them. I know most of the names here. I've had the privilege of working with so many of you. And you do have strengths. So play to those strengths. What are they? And work with that. Also, get to know your prospect and their environment specifically. What is their world that they're functioning in and living in? What's going on for them? put a name with a face using technology. So sometimes it's as simple as you have your picture on your website, you have your picture on your social media profiles. And then other times when you do start working with a client, sometimes when they initially meet you, doing Skype or FaceTime where you can do webcams is a great idea because you get that initial connection. Of course, on an ongoing basis, there's pros and cons to using the webcams all the time. Having the opportunity to do it, especially initially, can be really great for people. The more time that you're talking with a prospect, the more likely they're going to buy from you. So investing the time in those conversations, give them a chance to get their questions answered and to be comfortable with you. It's going to make a difference in the long run. The more they talk, the more laser targeted the solutions you develop because you're hearing what they want and what they're looking for. And the more they're invested in it. Oh, good tip, Jennifer. There's a group called BNI, Business Network International, and they put groups together in locations all over the world. And the idea of those groups is they only have one person from any one profession. So if you're part of a BNI group, you're going to be the only coach in that group. And everybody in that group refers to each other. It's a great way, as Jennifer said, for those strategic alliances. So good tip. Thanks for sharing that. All right. So 5 P's of marketing. What are your questions, everyone? And I'm looking for hands up. I'm looking for questions in the question panel. What we talked about here is your product, and the product being much bigger than the training, the assessment, the coaching, whatever you offer. It's really about the solutions, the ideas, and the insights. We talked about your price and negotiating value instead of price. We talked about packaging, and the package is you and your brand. We talked about ways for promoting yourself, and we talked about making it personal. Okay, so I had somebody asking, what do you mean by the assessment dashboard? Oh, goodness. So what I can share with you is that every single graduate of the Center for Coaching Certification has been given an assessment dashboard. If you graduated before we purchased that product for you, your access to it, your username is your email address, and your password is your email address. If you graduated after we purchased that resource for you, then we gave you a password to it. If you go to our website and you look on the resources tab, it gives you an assessment dashboard. And if you put your cursor there, the last thing on that assessment dashboard is actually access to it where you can log in. Here's what's on the assessment dashboard. Number 1, you can give dozens of different assessments for wholesale. Number 2, you can white label them. What that means is every single assessment report can have your name, your phone number, your website, your logo. So you can set that up as well. And also on that assessment dashboard are tons of resources for you. So there's facilitator guides, there's sample reports, there's everything it takes for you to be comfortable in terms of what the assessments are, how they work, what they offer, and how to work with a client when using that assessment. So I'm glad you asked that. I'm like surprised. We've been emailing everybody in terms of that. So I'm sorry to hear people are missing that email. It's a great tool. In terms of, let's see, the next question here. For someone who is new to the coaching industry, what do you recommend you start with to market yourself? So there's a couple of things. We've got on your coach login page a worksheet, and it's action steps to build a business. And it really takes you in a logical progression through some of the basics in terms of setting yourself up. The other thing I'm going to say is every single graduate has access to a free Q&A call on business and marketing every month. Take advantage of that too, so we can cover those things with you. We provide you a recording on the business of coaching and on marketing yourself as a coach so that you can set up the infrastructure. So yes, there are some core pieces you want in place, things you want to set up ahead of time, including some of the, your agreement, that kind of thing, as well as the marketing side where you're having your website and your social media. In terms of getting clients, as I mentioned earlier, the ICF says the top 2 resources are referrals and public speaking or training. Referrals means letting your network know, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is the reason I'm doing it. Please help spread the word. And asking your network to share with other people that you're there and what you offer. That's huge. And then the other is the more you get out there and present or speak or write, the more you've got it. So excellent. Good questions. I hope that was enough to get you started. And I'm guessing you'll have more questions, and that's fine too. The number for the call-in every month is on the Coach login page. So thanks for that question too. So yeah, you can access that anytime you log into the Coach login page. All right, so I'm going to keep us going just because I want to make sure we get a chance to cover all this great information from the assessment company before we run out of time. So identify clients by recognizing what makes you an expert. Think about that for a minute and then think about it again. It took me thinking about it a couple of times. So first off, look in the mirror. What do you offer? What makes you special? What's so great about you? And I know sometimes I get people say, well, I'm just like everybody else. There is something special about you. There is something great about you. Every single one of you has something unique and something that's absolutely powerful in terms of what your experience is, what your awareness is, etc. So think about the experience you have. Think about the training that you have. And then laser targeting your focus in terms of who you're going after and what you want. It makes you more relevant and desirable. So we talk often about having a niche in the coaching space. And sometimes people say, well, I'm afraid of having a niche because I don't want to, turn away clients that are outside that niche. Well, it doesn't mean you have to turn away clients outside that niche. It means that when you are doing marketing and promotion efforts, your focus is laser targeted. And when you have that, you are perceived as relevant, you're perceived as more desirable. It adds to your credibility by doing that. Plus, it actually helps you figure out where to do your marketing. And so it's really important in that way as well. Okay. Next, questions. You as the expert. So things to be considering. Thinking about your experience in training. Then get clear on the challenges you help clients surpass. And then lasers target what you offer, your niche. So it really is back to the packaging, you're the package. And part of your brand is the expertise you bring to the table. So you figure that out by considering your experience in training and consider what makes you special. Then think about specific challenges clients have, and that helps you with your niche and really honing in on it. Now I'm going to move into the 3 basics of marketing infrastructure. So back to the question earlier of where do you get started? So assuming you've got some of the logistical business things in place and you're moving into the marketing side, here are your 3 basics. So number 1, your website is the front door to your business. Now I have a lot of people say, do I really have to have a website? You know what? If you have a great network, you're well known, you're well established, and simply telling your network what you're doing gets you clients, it may be less of a factor for you. For most people, it's huge. And here's the irony of it. They're not going to find you because of your website. What will happen is when somebody does find you or is checking you out, they're going to go to your website and they want to see what's there. So think about it as the front door to your business. The other thing that happens with the website, it's much like saying, okay, I'm in the phone book. If you have a website, you're actually real. You're in business. And it's kind of funny how it's perceived that way. And that's the reality in terms of it being perceived that way. So having a modern website communicates relevance. Back to what I shared with you earlier, the struggles we went through. Okay, we've got to really modernize the look. And I was like, I was thinking it was great. No, it's not. We got to work on that. And so making sure it's got that modern look. Also, your home page, you want that to communicate your unique value proposition. Think about it this way. When people land on your website, you've got about a second to get their attention and give them something they want. And your unique value proposition is what they're looking for. And so making sure that's front and center, really clear and easy to understand right from the get-go. It is helpful to have testimonials on your website. You also want topical pages for the different tools and services that you offer. So yes, it's a package in terms of the solution, and you want to talk about the different components or elements of those packages based on what the solution is for them. So pages for those things. It is very important on your website that you have forms that people fill out. It can be a form to offer content. So for example, and there's several of you, there are a few of you who have written chapters in our Coaching Perspectives book. Well, we grant full rights to that chapter back to you. So now you have a white paper. And what you can do is on your website, you can say, hey, fill out this form and I'll send you this white paper for free. And so what's happening is it's giving them value because you're sending them that white paper. You can put a note right there, hey, I'm not going to spam you. That's not what this is about. So it's a way they get value simply by filling out the form. Give them a reason to do it. A contact page that asks for more. So you can have a checklist of the solutions you offer, and people can say, hey, I want to learn more about these ones, and submit it. It's a different kind of a form, really. And then, of course, you're going to want a page that does tell people about you. Now, what's interesting is you'll see some websites, you go to the website, and that's the first page. It's the photo of that individual. Well, if they go and that's what they see, they aren't sure what your value proposition is yet, and that may not grab them. So typically the home page is going to be what you offer that they're looking for, that meets their objectives. And then you do have a page on the website that they can click to that's about you. And so now that they know, okay, this person has what I want, they have the solutions, the tools, the whatever it is I'm looking for, I want to know more about them. When they're ready, they can go look and have more information about you. It is also really smart to have auto schedulers. So depending on what your calendar looks like, sometimes you have auto schedulers for people to set up a free 15-minute call or 30-minute call. And sometimes you have auto schedulers where people can start scheduling appointments with you. And those make sense. Now, for me, I send those out individually. For example, at the end of the webinar today, I'll say, hey, if somebody wants to schedule that 30-minute, let me know. And I do that because of where my calendar's at, where my schedule's at. When you're on a website and you're new and you're getting it out there, having an auto scheduler that people can access right from the website can be a great tool. Next on the basics. Okay. Guess what we're moving into? That pro-con one, that social media. And as we said earlier, this is not optional. It really is part of being in business. And if you are looking to expand your reach, expand your network, get yourself out there, it's part of doing that. It is content marketing at its most immediate. And we talked about content marketing being king, people knowing that you have some expertise, that you put out content that has value. It also is a way for multiple touches each day because you have different social media profiles, you've got content out there, oftentimes the social media content can be shared across platforms. And so it's really, really important to do that. Luis is asking auto scheduler in terms of what I recommend. Luis, there are so many good ones out there. I personally have one I use called Time Trade. I know that the assessment company uses a different one. The idea is that you can click on whatever it is, and you can go into somebody's calendar and you can schedule an appointment. I know with the one I use, I can determine how long the appointment is. So if I put a link up there, it can be for 15 minutes, or it can be for 30 minutes, or it can be for an hour. I determine that. And I say, here's how you access my calendar and schedule that appointment. When you ask that, because I'm on the social media page, what also occurred to me, and perhaps many of you are already familiar with this, just in case for those who aren't, there are also auto schedulers for your social media profiles. For example, you can schedule in advance when different tweets are going to go out, or when things are going to post on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. So by scheduling them ahead of time, what that means is even if you're gone or on vacation, your content is getting posted and it's getting out there. So it's a fabulous tool for scheduling social media content as well. So that was kind of two different things. The one for people scheduling appointments and one for the social media going out there. Val, you're asking about copies of the PowerPoint. So typically what I do is I send everybody the link to the recording on YouTube. I'm actually open if you want me to send the PowerPoint as well, if that's helpful. Sure, I can do that. And so because if I just send it to everybody, I end up in people's spam folders. What I'm going to say is if you want the actual slides, send me an email separately, and I am happy to do that for you. So glad you asked that. Hope that works for you. Let's see. Yeah, Jennifer makes a really good point. On Facebook, they have their own app in your profile for scheduling posts ahead of time. They don't like the third-party ones. So that's really good as well. So on the PowerPoint, by the way, if you put the message in the question panel, it's gone when the presentation is over. So if you want me to send the PowerPoint, send me an email, and then I can send it to you, so I can reply to you individually. All right, awesome. Let's keep going. So with social media, the other key to it is that you post consistently. I'll give you an example. We actually have a table with all our social media sites, and we make sure we're posting on each one at least a couple times a week. And we also look at what type of content we post based on the social media platform. So Facebook is more fun and friendly. LinkedIn is more the business professional type of post. So consider what you're posting and make sure you do it consistently. It's much better to have 2 social media channels that you do really well than to have 5 that you do poorly. Choose the social media channels that your ideal client is going to use. Another thing, example that I often give to people is if you're on LinkedIn, choose groups on LinkedIn based on where your ideal client is going to be. What groups are they involved in? Facebook and Instagram are visual, so having the pictures is really important. LinkedIn is your business card and resume, back to being more professional. And so posts there can be articles or commenting in the different groups you belong to, sharing links to articles, etc. Our third basic of the marketing infrastructure, CRM. Now, I'm just curious because until I really got into this, I didn't even know what that meant. How many people know what CRM means? Raise your hand if you know what CRM stands for. I'm just curious. Okay, so I have a lot of people here, and it looks like about half, well, not quite half of you know what CRM is. So thank you for that response. I was really curious about that. So for those of you that don't know, it stands for Customer Relations Management. So basically, it is a way of tracking who has expressed interest in what you offer and what your follow-up has been with them. There are customer relation management software programs. Some of them are free. Of course, putting them into a website usually takes more expertise. I know for me it does. It's not something I can do myself. I've got to get help with that. At the same time, when you're getting started and you're on a tight budget, you can even start with a simple Excel spreadsheet where you're tracking every contact point and what your follow-up is and when it is, and you've got notes about your conversations, etc. And the idea is that follow-up. It is an incredibly significant tool. Having a really good CRM is a way to break through the glass ceiling. It's a way that you can prioritize contacts, you can organize them, and you can position what you're doing with each one based on what it is they're looking for. So the key functionality to look for in a CRM is that it has a place for client profiles and notes. You can schedule reminders and follow-ups. It ties into professional email marketing. You can actually track outcomes and manage the sales sequence. And it gives you a way to set up what we call a drip or a drip automation. And what that drip is every so often just something going out. We don't want to be spamming people. We want to be providing value. So the drip may be, hey, here's a great article. Hey, check out this post over here. That type of thing where it's a value add to them and it's just a touch point where they remember you and that you're there and what you offer. So good tool. The idea of a CRM is to make what you do and what you offer simpler and more organized. And that's incredibly important. So those are just some basics on that. Let's keep going. So first off, we're going to dive into the more on the basics, simply because I want to invite questions. So we talked about website, we talked about social media, and we talked about CRM. What are your questions here to take this conversation deeper? And if you want, you can raise your hand, you can type it in on the question panel. And I'm guessing everybody's thinking. I'm not seeing any questions. In the absence of questions or hands up, that tells me to keep going. So that's what I'm going to do. All right. Negotiate value instead of price. So let's talk about that. When you put your proposal together for a client or a prospective client, do not itemize the individual services that you're offering. And back to the flowchart we talked about earlier that you co-create with the client, revisit that in your proposal. Because when the flowchart you do with them is in the proposal, guess what? Remember their ownership, their buy-in, their agreement with it? It's already there. And so having that flowchart in what you're offering absolutely makes sense. It's a winner. And if they're wanting you to talk price and that kind of thing, look at negotiating value adds instead of price reductions. So if you look at the diagrams here, in the middle of your screen at the bottom, you've got an example of a flowchart. Okay, we're going to define solutions, we're going to complete assessments, we're going to do individual and group coaching. And then over on the side, you have some options for value adds. You can provide white papers, you can do group reports on the assessments. By the way, that's a fabulous value add. If you have, for example, a team and everyone on the team takes the DISC profile, you can actually then pull a group report for free because they've all paid for the individual DISC profile. And the group report really talks about how they all work together. So it's this great value add that you can provide. Instead of having to come down on price, you can add value to what they're getting. And then depending on what you offer, many of you do different training programs, and you can offer recordings of different training programs, and that's a fabulous value add. So good ideas. What are your thoughts, comments, or questions here? Yeah, a lot of quiet. The idea is that you have options that cost less than a price reduction is going to cost. You can do free options. So the team group or DISC collaboration reports on those assessments that we were mentioning, for you, that's free. And for the client, it's fabulous. So be thinking. I'm again inviting questions. We talked about negotiating value. So we talked about bundling what you offer, revisiting the flow chart you co-create with the client, and value adds instead of price reductions. I've got a comment on here that you love the idea of bundling. That's awesome. Let's see. And in terms of comments or questions, that's what I'm getting. So I'm going to keep on going. Let's talk about learning more equals earning more. And many of you may have seen this in the coaching world. It is increasingly significant, for example, that people are part of the International Coach Federation. And being part of the International Coach Federation, so some people start with our Certified Professional Coach program, and that's 30 hours of training, so they can't even join the ICF yet. We are finding more and more often when we submit proposals, being part of the ICF is a request or a requirement in that proposal. So very, very important. And I'm going to backtrack just a minute because now a question came in. An example of a bundle versus an itemized list. So Sarah, if I'm doing an itemized list, I'll say the DISC assessment for X dollars, the coaching session to debrief the assessment X dollars, individual coaching session X dollars, if I do a training program, if I do consulting, those kinds of things. So I'm literally, every single piece is listed and priced individually. Whereas if it's a bundle, it's, hey, we're going to meet together and collaborate. We're going to figure out the solution together. And then when we have that solution, it's going to include the assessments and the coaching, and this is what that's going to look like. And the price for everything as a whole is this much. So instead of giving prices on individual elements of what you're offering, it's on the whole package. Please let me know if that answered your question, Sarah. And while I'm waiting to hear back from you, I'm going to go back to learning more is earning more. So we talked about increasingly being part of the ICF is important. Well, now it's even expanded beyond that. ACC is the first level of credentialing, and more people are looking for PCC, the second level of credentialing. And what's happening is, as the profession grows and people are learning more about it and they know, they're aware of where people are at in their training and credentialing process, and they're aware of the results they're getting. And the big companies, especially that invest a lot of money in coaching, are more and more often going to, they want people at the PCC level. So we're just seeing that happen. That's the trend. And I'm guessing all of you remember the whole trend. First it was, have a college degree. Then it was, okay, get a master's degree in that group. And that became the trend. Now we're seeing very similarly in coaching, the same thing is happening. So what does that mean to all of us? It means for you, the conferences that you go to, the training that you attend is going to make a difference. Letting people know. It means, just like in the ICF Code of Ethics, be a continual learner. one of the really good things, by the way, for those of you that, and I do see I have a lot of you, for those of you that did complete the Master Coach program and are members of the ICF, they have what they call communities of practice. And those communities of practice, every single one of them does free programs on a scheduled basis. Those of you that are graduates of the Center for Coaching Certification, you're familiar with this class as one example. We do free programs all the time. So there are a lot of opportunities for free ones, and there are also a lot of opportunities for additional training, etc. So you've got choices there. Another question came in on the bundling. When bundling, it is important to factor in preparation time. Yes, absolutely, Val. So when you put together your package, there's a lot of time that happens outside of the actual delivery of services, and considering that in creating your product packages is important. Okay, expanding your credentials and certifications. That's part of learning more. Now, all of you are familiar with all of the different options in terms of training specific to coaching. I hope you're also aware that the certifications you can gain in the different assessment tools also give you continuing ed credit for your coaching, and they're ICF approved as well. So in addition to being continuing ed with us, they're continuing ed with ICF. So you can get certified in different assessment tools. Of course, it's going to make sense to be really smart about that. What are the assessment tools your clients really care about? And then when you can go back to them and say, okay, now I'm certified in this, it adds to your credibility. So for example, I did my DISC certification. So now I'm a certified DISC practitioner, and there are more. In terms of getting certified in the assessment tools, and actually I know the person asking is in class right now. So when you graduate and we give you your assessment dashboard, you get a super discounted rate on the assessments. And so for those of you that have graduated and have your dashboard, you get a discount on those certifications. Do it through your dashboard. It's going to save you a ton of money. And it's all available right there on the dashboard where you can purchase that certification for yourself. Okay. Another thing that's important in terms of your own continuing education, both as a coach and with assessment tools, is staying ahead of the competition and staying relevant within the niche that you offer and provide. Of course, it's also a way to gain expertise that attracts new prospects. It's a way to be empowered to go back to past clients and offer new services, because now you've got more to offer. So another good tool that way. What are your questions on learning more, whether it's conferences and training events, credentials and certifications, or simply developing your expertise? And I'm leaving that open, and I'm looking for those hands, and I'm also aware of time, so I'm not seeing anything yet. I'm going to keep going. Be thinking about the new services you're offering. Okay, resources available to you. Of course, you've got the Center for Coaching Certification. You've got your assessment dashboard. Anytime you graduate from any one of our programs, that's been provided to you. We do have content, and here's what's great about the content. Number one, it's a way you can be a content expert because you can blog, and we do love guest blogs on our blog. You can be writing a chapter for the book we publish each year. You can give one of these free webinars. Also, keep in mind that you can share the content we put out there. So we put out content on Facebook, we put out content on LinkedIn, we put out content everywhere. You can share it. So you say, oh, I watched this great video on YouTube. Okay, here's a link to it. You can share it with your people. What that means is instead of constantly creating content, you're providing links to valuable content that's out there. And ideally, you actually want a mix. You want some content you develop yourself, and you want some content where you're linking to what other experts are doing. Another resource for you is we do outsource for coaching programs. We also outsource for training and for coaching services. For those of you that are graduates, we do have a business development team that's out there working on gaining contracts and placing our graduates in those contracts. So hopefully you've connected with that team that we've been emailing about. Or the other thing that comes up is sometimes you know someone or you have an access point and they're looking for a number of coaches. And you're saying, oh, I'm by myself. Well, guess what? You can connect with them because you do have a number of coaches available to you. We're all in this together and we can support that. So it's your contract and you can bring in additional coaches. I do have, I mentioned earlier, that gift for each of you so that you are here. I am happy to give you that free 30 minutes. When you get the link to the video, simply email me and request it. Do check us out on our website at coachcert.com. Do check out your dashboard. You have fabulous resources there. Take advantage of the content that's available to you, both as content you can then repost or share and as content for your own learning. The outsourcing that's available to you. And then for the gift, here's the way that's going to work. When I send you the video, email back to me requesting the link to the calendar, and then you use that calendar link to schedule. So I'm going to say I'm happy to hang around and answer additional questions as long as you're here. And I do realize that I'm getting a lot of thanks in there and people have to go because you've scheduled other things. So thank you as well. I appreciate that. I appreciate your thanks. I'm glad this was helpful to you. So make it a great one, everyone. Thank you so much. And those are you that are here, what additional questions do you have? And what I'm seeing in the question panel is the thanks. So, all right, seems we're complete. So thank you, everyone. Make it a great one.